This morning I want to draw you close, okay? I want to so much share with you. It's been 25 years here in Shiloh. And I think at the beginning of this year, this 2015, that I do some reflection with you. Some of you probably don't remember where Charlotte and I came from before we got here. We came from a small town called New Auburn, Wisconsin. And basically, a lot of things in that particular ministry, we were there about 6.5 years. 3 children born there in Wisconsin, and you know who they are. I don't have to mention their names. A lot of the ministry there, we had a lot of community things going. We had an after-school program on Tuesdays where a lot of the kids, if they got permission by their parents, the bus would take those kids from the school and drop them off at the church. We'd have after school from 3 to 5 on Tuesdays. We had community Bible school, which meant every church in town was involved in Bible school, including the Catholic Church in Bible school. The biggest room for our closing program was at the Catholic Church in the Fellowship Hall. We had a community choir, which I directed and Charlotte played for. We met every Tuesday or every Monday night at the high school or the school. There was only one school, which covered both elementary and high school, one building. We did 3 or 4 concerts a season in different areas in the hometown. Of course, we always had it in New Auburn for the choir to sing, both Christmas and Easter time. Got to a place in my own life, I said, well, Lord, where do you want me to do? Because basically a lot of the ministry that was happening was because Charlotte and I were instigating it. And I remember a number of nights going across the church to the church building and taking time through the night and just asking the Lord's direction. Received a phone call from a previous pastor of this congregation, Pastor Bond. And he asked whether I would consider coming to Shiloh. It was several months after that I received a call from the call committee to come and candidate. And for me, coming was like coming home, coming here. Not for Charlotte, but for me. And the reason being is that I was here previously to Charlotte, or my kids being born, was here as, and here's my title, Assistant to the Pastor with emphasis on youth. How's that for a title? I don't know what that makes out for an acronym, but you figure it out. I don't think it spells anything particular. So I was here, and I was here about a year and a half. And there was 2 places that I lived at. One was at Marie Kuiper's down here on Main Street, and then the second place was out of the Fogg's Trailer Court. Okay, and a trailer, and I think this is fascinating. I'm going to point you out. Where are you, Rich? Anyway, Rich is living in the trailer that I used to live in when I was way back then. Same trailer. The only difference is that they added a porch to it or whatever. I think that was an interesting point. So those two places, and then I was here until this congregation encouraged me to go to seminary. I went from here to seminary, and the rest of the story is that this was coming home to me. Coming here. Coming home. We went through the process of yard sales and giving stuff away. And moving time came. The members of the New Auburn Church helped us load the truck, and friends, community people as well came along, helped load that truck. Ruth Ann and Jerry Davis flew out to drive the truck and coming here, making sure that we're safe and sound. We got here, thankfully, probably one of the hottest days of the year, I think. In fact, that first night with our 3 children, because Jessica wasn't born yet, we ended up spending the night at Billy Dickinson's house after taking a plunge in Jane and Rob's Janoski's pool. It was hot. The next day, you men of the church, as well as some of you ladies, helped unload that truck. In fact, you guys, you had to take the frame of the window out of the second floor in order to get our bed in. You know, it's just kind of thing that you do, I guess. We were in Bach unloading. You helped us unload, and you ladies also provided food for our refrigerator. Thank you. It was a great welcome. Wonderful welcome. Unloaded it. We began to start to get out of boxes, and within, I guess it was probably the next evening or so, Ruth Probasco and a lady from Freesburg Lutheran Church, June Bostwick, came by the house and heard that Charlotte played the organ. And they asked Charlotte to go, would you come and be their organist? We were barely out of boxes. But Charlotte's been playing there ever since. The call. Now, the next things I'm going to talk about is kind of random. They're not sequential. In a sense, it's just things that came to my mind as we're going through ministry here. First thing I want to mention is we had a town newspaper. You remember that? We had one way back previously to us. You remember Pastor Bond had what was called the lamplighter, maybe, and there was one other nicer printed one that was circulated through. I forget the name of that one was, but when we first came, thought one of the things that would be very good for our community is that we'd have a town newspaper. So we found an organization. It was a Mennonite company which used newsprint. And in that, it would have articles in there. We'd be able to put articles in there about our town and about church news as well. And we did that for about a couple of years. We circulated it through routes through Shiloh. It went through Shiloh and it came out of Bridgeton. So everybody had to get one on the route, as well as the boxes here. Well, funding dried up for that. And time passed and we didn't do anything that way. And then Pat and George came to town. I'll tell you, I was so thankful with Pat's ability for publishing and Val's enthusiasm for mission, we birthed About Shiloh. And it was a paper again. It was back, and 10 times better than that newsprint that we were putting out or having mailed out. Now, at this occasion, most of those things that were going into About Shiloh, as well as those other papers that we tried, are online now. And if you were interested in finding out some news about the church, I recommend the website and Facebook pages. So you'd be able to do that. Next thing that comes to mind is the town Christmas tree. The first year that we came to town, we ended up having a town Christmas tree. It's been a long time we've had that tree, but not the same tree. Thankful for Dom DeLuke. Dom DeLuke, the owner of the market, gave permission for a tree to be placed there in front of the market on behalf of the town. And also those first years at least until after changing, the market owner was paying for the electric for the lighting of those lights. I remember that first tree, Charlie Lupton dug the hole in front of there and kept hitting that stone as he was digging. That first tree came out of Sandy and Charlie's side yard, and we cut it off. And David Ayers got a forklift, and we went around there and we cut it off. We tied it up in the fork, and we brought it around, and we pulled the sorry Sandy, but we pulled their phone line off their house. But good news, it tilted the tree enough so that when we brought it around the car, it missed the electric wires. Good news. The tree was in honor and memory of William Lupton, and those of you that are aware of William, special needs child of Sandy and Charlie's, and was always there. And I know our church over the years has so much supported the family with William's medical bills and so forth. But that tree is in honor and memory of William. And over the years, what we would do is we'd advertise, and the reason we were doing that, one reason, again, was to see if we can bring a community together. An opportunity, again, to bring the community together, and neighbors meeting neighbors, and people bringing an ornament for the tree that represented their family, and the singing of carols. That first year we did that, I walked down. We used to have refreshments those early days here at the Fellowship Hall, and I walked down with two people, John and Jeanette Shaw. And some of you might remember them. I walked down from the corner to the church. They lived over on Dickinson, and they never knew the church was here. They walked down with me down East Avenue. And they came to the church, and within a short amount of time, they started attending worship. Eventually, Jeanette became a member of the church. Family Fall Fun Festival. That was a tough one, because it was hard. And the concept was we were going to try again this idea of bringing community together. So here was the idea. We contacted crafters. We contacted businesses. We contacted the Shiloh senior citizens. Remember, some of you remember we had a Shiloh senior citizen group. And the Ruatan, to asking them if they would all participate somehow in this Family Fall Fun Festival. So we did. We did it several years in a row. I can remember Olga Fogg. You remember Olga? Olga Fogg coming and dressed in her clown outfit. Right? Some of you I see shaking your head. You remember that? There were others. We had a representative from the Rutan, and Rudy Bear showed up, you know, an old guy dressed up in a bear outfit. But it was again an opportunity for neighbors with neighbors, community people came around. After a while, interest kind of fell off doing it. And I am so thankful with the last, maybe 2 years ago, that Lauren Du Bois and her team got together and they tried it again. Again, it was along with the chicken barbecue that we've had. And that was a joy to see at least that happening again. Preparing for camp administrator. I'll tell you, I did not know what that meant. What did it mean to be a camp administrator for Jersey Oaks? I had no clue. The only connection I had with Jersey Oaks was maybe being on staff and maybe directing a camp, right? Back in the day. Okay? That was it. And so those first years was just chasing down what regulations and what things we needed to be and do and who do we supposed to have and what, you know, and what materials I needed to have and show to the inspectors. And now, not to say that I've got it all together yet, because it seems like that every year there's something new that we have to come up with. The latest within this last year. Again, there's a reminder that we have to do background checks for all our staff members. In some cases, every year we have to do that. So that was a learning experience. And I guess many of you don't even realize what that's all about. You just see in my reports that, I saw inspectors or camp, and I've checked the different things. But that's where it began. I still had to learn that. Radio program. Now, there have been a lot of changes over these years in radio, or radio program. We started out WSNJ 1145 on Fridays. 15 minutes. In those early days, guess what? I used a record. A record. Can you believe that? I would practice with that record at home and make sure that I got the timing right and everything so that I could do it live over the air. Okay? So that wasn't an easy trip. But there have been a lot of changes in the radio program itself. Let me just tell you that we no longer use records. We use CDs. Okay? We no longer do 15-minute program. We do 30 minutes a program. Which was live at the beginning of the year, live on, and at one point even on camera, doing the program at WSNJ Quinn Broadcasting. That through the summer months, those things had to be recorded for the summer so that we could do a year-round program. We went from 15 to 30. We went from the live now, right now, we're recording all the programs at the parsonage. And we've gone from one station to two. Doing a program that is now being played on WSNJ on Sunday mornings from 11:30 to 12, and on Lift FM in the afternoon starting at 4:30 in the afternoon. And that recording is done at home now, and that's year-round now. So there's been a lot of changes there over the years and what I've been involved in. Worship services. Have you seen a difference in worship services? I hope you have. Because originally, worship services, I led the worship leader, preached the sermon, directed the choir, and did the children's message. Everything. We did it several years. Everything up front. Directing choir, preaching, and doing the children's message, leading the transitions and so forth through the worship service. I am so thankful that we have people out here, right, that volunteer to do the children's message, right? I'm thankful, too, for those that volunteer to do the announcements, so that it's not just myself, which I interpret as being really overkill for you guys. I mean, enough of me, right? Summer ministry help. Over the years, we always seemed like for a long period of time we had SCSC team come and help out in the summer. But twice we had special people to come, guys, Randy Miller and Alex, and I make sure I get that, Offner. When I say her name, I want to switch her name around. It's a hyphenated name. But two of them came, and they were to help out with youth activities, especially events during the summer, not only in our congregation, but specifically focusing on the youth. It was good for them. It was good for us, too, that they were here, because we were learning what an assistant in that area would do, because we really wasn't really clear what it really wanted them to do. One of the projects with Alex that I don't think we really totally completed, and that was we decided we were going to try to get a Bible in every home around Shiloh, in home. We started doing that around. We never really completed that project, making sure that every home around in Shiloh had a Bible. We got so far, just one occasion, Alex and I and Gene Ritchie was also, we were out there. We went over here on Randolph Road, and I never had such a response. It was kind of interesting. We went to the door of this home over here on Randolph Road, and they hadn't been apparently in a house very long. And then we asked where you come from and that kind of thing. And we had Bibles. We're trying to meet our neighbors, trying to, that kind of thing. And we have a Bible to give. And she goes, and we find out. She said, well, I feel pretty secure here in this house. I've got a pastor on one side living and a security guard on the other side next door, so I feel pretty good here. I said, well, how long you been living here? She said, not real long, but would you like to see? I said, what? She opens the door, and we walk right in. She gives us a tour of the house. This is kind of interesting. We walk around this big loop, and we come through the kitchen, and there's this door there that leads down to the basement. And she says, this is what she said. She says, sometimes I feel like I need to lock that door because that's where my husband is with the computer. So we got to talking and so forth, and finally he comes up, and we got to talking, and we end up giving them a Bible. Said, well, we got one. I said, it's okay. I said, well, you take it and you share it with somebody else. Share it with somebody else. We never really realized that whole thing, and maybe that's something that we could look at in the future. Realizing that every home at least have one Bible, a copy of the Scripture in their home, regardless. CPR study. Some of you were a part of that. It's if you know cardiopulmonary resuscitation. That study is a group of individuals that volunteered to come. We did a study, basically ended up being a sociological study of who we are, why do we do what we do as a church, as a community, and it was good for the group, I think, my personal opinion, that we were able to, on a regular basis, meet together and talk about ministry and do some making some decisions about who we are, with the desire of, Lord, what is the vision? What do you want us in moving forward after we decide and we discover who we are as people? I think most of the wonderful time for me personally during that time was that you as a congregation allowed me to go on a weekend away. Scripture, the Lord, prayer, and taking the material that we learned about the congregation and being away for a weekend and just seeking the Lord. Lord, what is it that you want us to do? What direction that you want us to take? Now, it wasn't like Moses coming down from the mountain, and I was encouraged that it didn't have to be like that. But I was given, I believe, 2 words. And those 2 words were this: engage. The other one was refuge. Now, I'm not really sure what those 2 words mean, whether God wanted us to multiply. I thought he did. And so some weeks after that, I began meeting with Dennis and Julia Coleman in Abington, Pennsylvania, every other Sunday. We met there not only to eat, but also for study together. Others periodically joined. I know, Eric, you came over, or at least, came over, and there at the house a couple of times. Carol even went up with us. The point is that the intent was to see whether their home could be a mission statement or station for us. Ultimately, developing a small group and then maybe a church plant. Well, I soon learned after a number of times that that's not what God meant by engage. I'm still praying about those 2 words. What does that mean for us? What does that look like? And those are questions I pray over a lot. What does that mean? What does it mean to engage, to become a refuge? A refuge. Going to conference. Thank you so much for being such a generous congregation for me, myself, and my family to go to conference. There's not a lot of churches that do that for their pastor or family, for that matter. There have been at least 3 times that you allowed us to travel to the West Coast by tenting across country and go to conference in California and Oregon and Washington State. And I thank you, because I would not trade that experience with my kids when they were smaller, traveling like that across the country. I would cherish those memories the rest of my life. So thank you. Chicken pot pie dinners. How many of you remember when chicken pot pie dinners were both on Memorial Day and New Year's? Yeah? And Labor Day. Okay. See, I didn't even get it right. And I'll tell you why. Thank you. All right? Thank you, because when I started here, it was only on Memorial Day. Right? And part of my deal is that as pastor, I was not only to greet people as they came, but also to pour coffee. Right? All right. I thank Owen Probasco so much. I was so fumbling at pouring coffee, and some of you can repeat the story to me. I was reaching across, the lady across the table wanted, yes, I want some coffee. The lady sitting here by me didn't want any. I reached over. I had the pot in this hand. I reached over and poured this down her back. Well, that was Tyler's kindergarten teacher. And I thought, quite frankly, Tyler's going to flunk. And Owen came out and talked to her and so forth with my apology. I think she may have gotten her meal, okay, for nothing. And a big apology, right? And that big apology, along with that, I have never forgot that occasion. I hope that she has forgotten that to this day. The big ideas that just didn't work out. I had some big ideas. One big idea is the multiplication of small group. I had this idea, and it just didn't work out, that you would use not just Bible study, or not just the Bible study, the teaching on Sabbath morning, both video and transcript and worksheets for a small group. Also, the teaching of, for instance, of how to know Jesus as your personal Savior. How do you know Jesus? Baptism, church covenant, those types of things in those studies, and based upon the teaching here on Sabbath morning. As I was hoping to happen that the recording to be done and a transcript from the recording, it didn't work. In fact, there's a few times where when I was doing a series in a particular book, like 1 John, there were some weeks that didn't even get recorded. It didn't work out. So all my big plans, an idea of using material from Sabbath morning in a small group, because of transcription and publication and everything else that I thought was going to be really easy to do, well, it didn't work out that way. Although there's a couple of small groups that actually started, not on a regular basis. We did small groups in evangelism. It met Wednesday night and Sabbath afternoon, and it was called 2 Ways to Live. Some of you were a part of that. 2 Ways to Live. The idea, there was a big desire to learn how to share your faith, and so we had 2 groups. If you missed Wednesday night and you could come Sabbath afternoon, and it all met at the parsonage, you could catch up and stay up with the group. Another small group experience was more like a seminar. Some of you participated in it. It was called um, concerning faith and what it means to be a church member. I am a church member. The third seminar, it was on Sabbath afternoon. The next seminar had to do with spiritual leadership. It was based on Blackaby's book by that same name. We didn't multiply small groups like I hoped. But the idea of it was I believe those that attended those seminars really received a lot. And the books that were shared, a lot of books were taken and shared with other people as well. In that particular one concerning, and I wanted to be sure that I had the names of the sections. I am a church member, and that particular had 6 basic things to consider and pledge. Number 1, I will be a functioning church member. I would be a unifying church member. I would not let my church be about preferences and desires. I will pray for my church leaders. I will lead my family to be healthy church members. And I will treasure church membership as a gift. Each one of those sections concluded with a pledge that I will begin to practice this area, those 6 areas. It was a challenge. We didn't multiply small groups, but I think all these had a lot to do with building projects. Well, you can see around you. Well, there's 3 projects that I can recall as over these years: the Link, the Parsonage, and a nurse's station out the camp. Remember that one? But it wasn't just to minister to our congregation. It was to minister to people of even the greater community. And now I want to move to the relational stuff between me and you, even more so. Okay? I've known some of you since you were born. I was involved in your dedication to the Lord and your baptism. For others, I have been involved in your grandchild's dedication to the Lord. I performed many weddings over the years, and I got to officiate at a double wedding, Suzanne and Julie. I've never done that before. There have been funerals of church members and friends and acquaintances. There have been some funerals that I personally have felt loss. One service was surreal to me, and that was Pastor Bond's funeral. It was just unreal to me. Here I was, many years ago, he was pastor, and I was his assistant. And to be conducting his funeral, unreal. I've been at hospitals with some of you right before surgery for prayer. And I've been with some of you in your home offering prayer and comfort at a time of the loss of a loved one passing. The past several years, I've been seeking or trying to be seen in Shiloh as the community pastor. By taking time with families in our community that are broken, dysfunctional, that are in painful situations that of their own choosing. I talked to them and have brought food to them and transported them to jobs and job services. I've gone to court with them and taking them to probation officers, worked with agencies and people to help them to get into drug rehab. In these homes, the only way that they will have change, and that change would occur, is that they need to hit bottom, and at their bottom find the Lord Jesus. It's the only way. And this is what I struggle with as I minister this way. My struggle is how much that I do is enabling, that, in other words, preventing them to hit the bottom, and how much is really pointing them towards Jesus. That's my heartache. Because that's where I believe Jesus has called me. Well, I struggle with it. I've gone periodically, not necessarily on a weekly basis, down to the market for a cup of coffee. Sitting down with the guys, some of the men that are there every day at some point during the day. Take an opportunity to also Dunkin' Donuts, and I shared some of you about some of that experiences there. Let me draw this to a conclusion. Things I believe we need to be willing to do as a congregation. And I know that I cannot produce change in your heart. I can't make it happen. And I can't even do that for myself. It's only Jesus that changes us. But there are some things that we need to be honest about. We need to be honest and personally search ourselves. There's a desire for healing and moving from looking at others to looking at ourselves first. It's only the Lord who changes people. So first, or A, we need to become more dependent on Jesus than we are now. Regularly praying together and for one another. To have more genuine times of worship. In other words, it's not the idea that we come here, we get it done. We've come here to meet the Lord. Having Jesus' eyes. Looking at the people in your family, friends, acquaintances, at work, or in the community, the way Jesus sees them. How does Jesus see them? Do you see them that way? B, we need to evaluate what we are doing in ministry right now and ask God if it is accomplishing what it was intended to do. Can we make the ministry better through prayer and improve it in order to accomplish the Lord's outcome? Should we drop a current ministry because it's lost its effectiveness or meaningfulness? I don't know whether that's something that the advisory board could work on, but that might be a good thing. To be honest, sometimes we do things and we lose the reason why we're doing it. Or we only do it because we did it for so many years. And how many of you heard that phrase? Why do we do this? We've always done it that way. Well, why do we do it? Can we remember why we started that ministry? What was the reason? What did it accomplish? And if it's still accomplishing what the goal at that idea, why we started it, fantastic. Let's improve it. Let's keep going. But here's the problem is that if it's lost its effectiveness or meaningfulness or the reason why we're doing it, and it's not doing what it's intended to do, why do we still do it? C, we need to share our stories with each other. I think we assume that we know everything about the other person, but we don't. And we make judgments about them. There was a study done concerning children who bounce back after hard stuff in their lives happening. Those that do remember granddad and grandma's story and how they get through hard things, hard times, and how the Lord brought them through it. They know their story. And because they know the story of grandma and granddad and the tough times that the Lord brought them through, yes, the Lord helped them in this case, brought them through it, that hard time, and yes, I'm going to go through tough times, and the Lord's going to be with me too. I'm going to continue to hang in. I'm going to continue to trust. And we need those stories with each other. You older folks need to be willing to share your story with others. What's your faith all about? What do you believe? What do you trust? What is your hope? And how the Lord's brought you through. And I'm sure that every one of you could tell a story about how God has brought you through stuff. Hence our theme today, right? He's been there all along. And lastly, we need each other more than ever this coming year. As I look at it, there are rapidly changing in our world today, and Christianity is being attacked over and over again. What you believe. And we need each other. We need each other. And it's not going to get any easier. Sorry, that's a downer, isn't it? It's not going to get easier. And the question is that we in ourselves, and this is area of refuge, being people of refuge, having hope, we know we have a relationship with God, we have a hope that's beyond this life, right? Hope so. You do, right? That means when stuff happens in our lives, we have a hope beyond it. We don't lose hope. And there are many people in this world that have nothing. All they put their hope in, their work, their business, their job, their family, that's what they put their hope in. And what happens to them when their hope goes away? The thing that they're hoping in is gone. What do they got left? The scripture says that the end times will become a time upon this planet that people will go around crying to the rocks and saying, cover me, hide me, because they've lost it all. There's no hope. And we've got to be people who full of hope in the sense that we have something to give those people, right? That have nothing. I'm not just physical stuff. The gospel is what I'm talking about. Jesus is what I'm talking about. We need each other more than ever, and the time's coming that we need to be able to go to each other and find help and comfort and strength and be the people to be able to give out. So I'm saying we need to prepare ourselves and our families. So when tough times come, we like those stories about grandma and granddad that yes, there's more. Yes, the Lord's going to bring us. We have hope beyond this life that nothing can take away. It's been a privilege over these 25 years to be your pastor. You've seen me grow and you've seen me where I failed. And you've been gracious in that. But I hope and I pray that you guys realize that every one of you I care about. And some of you, I would say you're my family, not just the bigger family, okay, of Christians or believers. And some of you are my family. Like I said, this was like coming home for me. And it still is. It still is. Let's pray together.